What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. All right, check it out. By now, a lot of you guys may have seen this film, Civil War. At least you've heard some of the conversation surrounding this movie. It was #1 at the box office this week. A24's best ever opening, all right? $25.7 million. A lot of people are talking about this. It's all over the internet. And I think the conversation around this film, honestly, is more interesting than the film itself. And I like the movie. I actually think the movie is a very good movie. But I think that the conversation surrounding the movie is very, very poignant and very interesting. And a lot of it has to do with what people brought into the film or what they expected this film to be. You know, a lot of folks are saying that the trailer kind of threw us for a curve. We thought we were going to get one kind of movie. We got a different kind of movie. And that does happen. You know, a lot of times the trailers are made just to get butts in seats. And then you go and sit down and you're like, oh man, I didn't get what I was expecting out of this thing. So I don't blame people for being upset if they feel like the trailer, you know, sold them a bill of goods. However, I want to talk about this particular post. Yeah, so Discussing Film had put this up. Alex Garland breaks down why Texas and California are allies in Civil War. And like, first of all, look, there's no need to break this down, okay? If you want to make people understand why Texas and California are allies in Civil War, put it in the movie, all right? Put it in the movie. Don't come out after the fact trying to explain away. Well, see, what you guys need to understand is that, no, bro. Put it in the film. Let us understand it in the context of the story that you're telling. If you don't do it, let us then come to our own interpretations. That's kind of the thing I like about this movie, is that it doesn't tell you what to think, how to think, what's going on. It's throwing you in the middle of a situation and just following some journalists along the way. That's all it's doing. And I like that. I like that. Okay, I get to draw my own conclusions as to what the film is doing, what the film is trying to say. I'm not basically being spoon-fed information as to, oh, this is why this all happened. I get it that there's a story element that's missing because you don't tell us all of that stuff. But at the same time, not every movie has to be built the exact same way, where we need all of the story points to be laid out and spoon-fed to us so we can understand what the director is doing. I understood what he was doing without him doing this, and then him coming out and saying all of this, just kind of like, man, you shouldn't have said this. Like, I was going back and forth with a friend of mine about this map, right? This Civil War map. And he was like, yo, D, make it make sense, man. This don't make no sense to me. You know, how is it that the Western forces are Texas and Cali, but the Florida Alliance, like, why isn't Texas linked up with the Florida Alliance? And where are the loyalists? And I'm like, bro, time out. Okay, this is a fictional universe, bro. This is a fictional universe, all right? Anything goes down in the fictional universe. We don't even know, like, what the political affiliations of any of these states are before, you know, the director comes out and, you know, blows the cover. But we didn't know any of that stuff. Not only that, it's war. Anything can happen in a war, all right? Anything can go down. I was bringing this point up to him. Like, this is the California electoral map from the last recall election, you know? And yeah, Cali recalls their governors like all the damn time, right? Like, less than 20 years ago, California had a Republican governor. Less than 20 years ago, all right? Not even a full generation ago, California had a Republican governor. Y'all remember Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And that happened on the heels of a recall election. So they hired a Democrat or put a Democrat in office, then they recalled his ass. And then they put a Republican in there. That's basically what they was trying to do with Newsom, right? They were trying to get Newsom up out of there. And look, my point is this. You know, we constantly see recall elections going down in California. It's not like the whole state is just politically aligned right down the side, right? You know, there's like definitely some deep red up in this place. Some deep red, some pink, some darker pinks, and then some lighter pinks, but that means more red than blue, right? And so my whole theory was, well, I mean, it's war, ain't it? You know, what if all of the cats all up in these little areas saw war and they said, oh, it's war, huh? Oh, war, you say? Well, let's posse up, fellas. Let's take care of some business that we've been meaning to take care of. War is war. You never know how this shit is going to play out. But let's listen to what the director has to say as to why these two particular states linked up in his fictional universe.
There is a fascist president. The president is killing their own citizens. Then what's happened is two states who are in different political positions are saying we are more concerned about a fascist constitution smashing violent president. We are more concerned about that than we are about our political differences. And then there's a counter to that, which is if you cannot conceptualize that polarized politics could be overcome in order to combat a fascist president, what is that saying about the nature of polarized politics?
So let me stop it there. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of scenario, right? That's basically what he's saying, all right? We've heard that before. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if I have to find an ally, I got an enemy over here that I'm interested in beating, somebody else who I may not necessarily be politically or ideologically aligned with, they also hate that same guy. Okay, so we both have a common foe that we want to take down. All right, let's link up for a little temporary measure. All right, let's take this guy down. And then afterwards, we can go back to hating each other or whatever. All right, like we saw that in World War II, right? You know, the United States and Russia combined forces linked up to take down Germany. We saw that. That literally happened, you know, and then after it was all said and done, all right, we beat Germany. Cool. Let's kick off this Cold War. F you, no F you. And there we go, you know. That's how it all went down. And so, yeah, Texas and California, two completely different ideological, you know, forces or whatever, politically, ideologically different as far as can be, you know, just like the United States and Russia. But, yo, we got a common foe. We got to take these cats out. All right. And there it goes. And that's how it happened. So, yeah, it's not as hard to believe, I think, as some people want it to be.
So the film is about journalists doing old-fashioned reporting. I'm trying to echo that form of reporting, and I would be breaking that form of reporting if I started throwing bias all over it. And on top of that, would be dismantling the argument within the film, which is that polarization is not a good thing.
Yeah, having to spell out your message, bro, means that your message was not clearly, you know, illustrated or conveyed. But yeah, you know, at least it was like, I guess, hidden in the subtext, you know, because a lot of people didn't pick up on that. You know, I kind of figured, yeah, ultimately what he's trying to say is that, you know, the factions that are fighting in this, you know, there was like bad things being done on both sides. Like there was no good guy at all in this thing. There was no winners, all losers, you know, even though they showed, you know, like the final battle and there was a winner there. But ultimately, who wins? You know, we have, you know, the people that we were following didn't really win anything, you know, and that's kind of how I looked at it. Like, well, what did we win out of this? What did we get out of this? Nothing really. You know, we got some pictures, but, you know, we lost people along the way. You know, it was horrors, the horrors of war, you know, and I think that that really is the biggest takeaway that I see in any case. But, you know, again, I think that, you know, there's really no wrong answers. If you love the movie, if you hate the movie, I don't think you're wrong. You know, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that it's really an eye of the beholder type of situation, and what you bring in to the film and how you feel about things coming into the film, you know, will definitely color your experience. I try to keep all of that stuff out, you know, when every movie I go into, even a movie I think is going to absolutely stink and suck out loud, I always walk in like, let me just see what the filmmaker is giving me. And I'm going to try to keep an objective, open mind to whatever it is, you know, and if I like it, I like it. And I'll say I like it. Even if I thought I hated the movie, or if I thought I was going to dislike the movie, hey, this actually worked out for me. Okay. I've admitted to that in the past. Oh, I thought this movie was going to be trash. Turned out it wasn't bad at all. All right. Enjoyed myself. You know, so I think sometimes walking into a film like Civil War, you know, with all of the expectations that are surrounding this thing, you know, a lot of people are really like, you know, kind of like, yo, you know, a typical European explanation. Yeah. I mean, again, I see his point when it comes to the enemy of the enemy is my friend. You know, I see that, you know, because that's played out in real life before, you know, that's how things have gone down in the past. Seems like Alex Garland doesn't like the Constitution. If he doesn't like it here, he can leave. Well, you know, like this whole, I mean, they kind of butchered that, you know, because he said a constitution, like this fascist constitution smashing president, you know, that's how it is. They discussing film kind of is wrong with that. But yeah, nevertheless, I think this was a very interesting film for folks to just kind of sit down and talk about, you know, John Douglas calling them Euro trash. It's like, whoa. But I mean, what do you say? What do you say? You know, what are your opinions on, you know, what he's saying about Texas and California linking up, you know, and trying to explain it away? Again, I feel like it's just kind of the cheap way out to put this shit in a, like a post, you know, or to make some sort of a after the fact commentary on it, put it in the movie if you want people to understand that. And if you don't want people to understand it, leave it out of the movie, just like you did, all right? And everybody's sitting there scratching their heads trying to figure it out. And like, oh, it's up to you. You figure it out. You know, that's how I would have left it if I did this, you know. But anyway, folks, again, I think it's an interesting movie to discuss. I'm actually going to be on with Film Threat tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, discussing this film with Alan Ng and the rest of the Film Threat gang. So join me there. Should be a lot of good conversations coming out of this. But you guys let me know what you think. Jump down in the comments. Give me your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for watching. See you next time.